The lion banner sways and falls in the horror-haunted gloom. A scarlet dragon rustles by, borne on winds of doom. In heaps the shining horsemen lie, where the thrusting lances break, and deep in the haunted mountains the lost black gods awake. Dead hands grope in the shadows, the stars turn pale with fright, for this is the dragon's hour, the triumph of fear and night.
And World of Conan is muted.
Hello and welcome to World of Conan, and to all you guys from beyond Vanaheim, from Black Kingdoms, all the way from east from Kitai, all the way to the west to the Barakan Isles, but no pics allowed. Welcome to the Barbarian Horde. Welcome to the Brother Skrin. And today we are talking about the Hour of the Dragon, chapter 9 and 10. So in the chapters 8 and 7, Conan, as he is fled from the captivity, he meets with the witch. I think it was in chapter 7, and then he meets with Servius, one of his loyal I think it was count or but anyway, he meets with him as well, so he gets the lay of the land, so to speak, in Aquilonia, and he learns from Servius that the countess, I think her name was it
Albiona.
Albiona, yeah, is about to be executed. So Conan is on his way to the tower, the Iron Tower, where the execution is going to happen, to stop it, because she's been always a loyal subject of Conan. So he feels obviously obligated because he's a king and a king at heart. But there was one interesting tidbit or point that we learned in chapter 7, I think it was, from the witch, that as we know as readers, the heart of Ahriman is obviously at the center of the whole story, basically to win or to lose. So the witch tells Conan that you must find the heart of your kingdom. Now at this point, Conan doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know what the heart of his kingdom means, but we know that she's talking about the heart of Ahriman, and Conan will find out that as well later on in these chapters. So I think that's a really cool stuff. Anyway, kicking it over to the Brother Screen. What did you guys think? And then we'll start to go through the chapters.
Well, I think heart of the kingdom could also mean the people and the strength to rally them, and
that's true.
I'm also thinking real quick. There's what was it? I think it's Lion King, which had the heart of a true king quote at one point, about Simba and whatnot. So
yeah, that's true.
I wonder if Disney kind of ripped off of Howard with that, because Howard's the sort of writer. Yeah, he's talking about the heart of Ahriman. He is, but he's also the sort to throw in some, cloak in some metaphors and some other philosophical ideas, because he was really brilliant. So just wanted to comment that. Oh wow, and we have Silverwave.
Oh, Silverwave, hello. Yes, this story has been made to several comics.
I think I've read one of them, or at least partway through one of them, and it's brilliant.
Here's the Ablaze one. That's Xalta with the Heart of Ahriman over there. So this is the Ablaze one, the French, basically from France, their version.
On Disney.
Bande dessinée, yeah.
I've read part of it.
Then
it's
right,
really
I haven't. Yeah. It looks really awesome. I haven't had time. Then there's the Dark Horse one, and then there's the, I think Marvel, the early Marvel also did a version, or did no yeah I have yeah they did it as well in Savage Sword of Conan, I think it was. So it has been made several times. So you have you can cherry pick or just read them all. Like there's
Yeah.
awesome art in every one of them, and slight differences. So I mean, definitely check those out. But about Heart of the Kingdom, at least in these chapters, we find out that at least Conan makes the connection. So that's why I meant that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It has to do with the Heart of Ahriman. Obviously, I was also thinking like it makes sense that he has to. It's more than just the Heart of the Ahriman, but
Yeah.
but it's yeah.
I also think that there's the entire matter of figuring out what it means to be a king. At the heart of a kingdom, a king needs to know what it means.
That's what I meant, Dan. I was just trying to build off of what you said, World of Conan and whatnot.
Right.
But also, real quick, I think the novel has recently been, in the past year, translated into Japanese.
Oh,
and
interesting.
For possibly the first time. And apparently, I remember, I think it was Dan who read up that it was a runaway success already with the Japanese. They really like Conan. Probably because of Musashi and whatnot.
Right.
Who's a bit of a real life Conan. But I'm about a third of the way through the French edition. I'm actually at about chapter 9, I think, in the French edition, because I was reading it in the past few weeks, and it's a brilliant translation. So if anyone understands French, because the translation is like a rewriting, like a new edition.
Yeah,
and
they can be bad.
yeah, they can be bad. The French translation is incredibly good. It's like the Lord of the Rings translation is good, but not like great so far. But the Hour of the Dragon one is just the quality is just so good.
I would think
the best translations ever.
I think there will be a big problem, or like that's a problem with the Howard's prose, to get that like flowing in a translation. I mean, that's a key point, I would think. In a good translation, you get it flowing, not get it like really, staccato, how we would say, like break it apart.
Just to compare the two, the Lord of the Rings French translation has a staccato like side to it, which is a shame because Tolkien tends to flow like poetry in English.
Right.
But the French one has some staccato moments, whereas Howard, his Hour of the Dragon in French flows like it's almost musical, and it almost feels like you're reading an opera, and it's really interesting. But and it captures also the raw feel of Howard. So
right. Just wanted to answer Silver Waves. I've read All Dark, or some must have read it at some point. It was not in the mainline Conan comics in the flagship. It was under the banner of King Conan. So it was like a mini series, the Hour of the Dragon adaptation. Half of it was called The Conqueror, if I remember correctly. So you might have missed it in that way. It depends completely on you, Silverway. But I just thought I would tell you that if you didn't know that there was obviously several different comic series going on about Conan. So, all right, Red Sun, right? Yeah. It just if you just read the main series, you might like where's the Hour of the Dragon, like where's the you might miss those, but they did do those. It was just in a mini series format with a different title, not Conan, King Conan. So nice, you bought Art of Marvel. Conan book has the best art from original ones. Nice. Yeah, there's some great art. Great art to look.
Sword.
Yeah. So let's get into this. Chapter 9 and chapter 10. Chapter 9, my title says, "It is the king or his ghost."
Yeah.
It has cool. Let me see.
Oh, yeah, nice art.
Yeah.
See, my English edition doesn't have many of those pictures, only a few. But my French edition has pictures like that.
Yeah, it's the Del Rey. Most consider these the best publications of Conan, the stories.
Okay, I got this
illustrations. Yeah, I got that as well. I got that first, but then I just wanted to get these as well.
Gonna have to get the.
Yeah, it's easier. It's 3 books, so it's easier to hold and read. So than just one. Anyway, so we're caught up with King Conan going undercover into Aquilonia, the conquered Aquilonia.
Yeah,
and he's interestingly disguised himself as Odin.
Yeah,
at least it at least looks like it to me. Howard.
Yeah,
I think that's
the idea.
Yeah, I think it is the idea there. Didn't notice it the first time as I read, but
just to harken back
to the visual
to the Othin thing. There's actually, I think, a myth of where Othin was essentially overthrown by Sif, and you had Uller put on the throne, her son, and Othin has to somehow reclaim the throne. The myth is very scant. We only know kind of Othin was at one point overthrown and Uller was put on the throne, but he reclaimed the throne. It's like the entire middle section, nothing. But
right, I never heard about it.
A pity, because it sounds like it would make a great story.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's true.
I've tried looking for all the details for years, and I couldn't find anything.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but as for Conan, I just remembered. I don't think I said this last time, but as he's traveling through Aquilonia, there's a bit of a feel of it reminds me to an extent of Sam and Frodo as they're traveling almost between Gondor and Mordor, like that almost no man's land region, and also a bit of the parts of Rohan Saruman kind of ravaged. So that's
interesting.
Yeah, it's just this part of the story as Conan's traveling and seeing the ravages inflicted upon his kingdom. I'm strongly reminded of what Tolkien wrote in a similar of these kingdoms that went through a similar fate.
Did you think about when it describes the Iron Tower? Now that you talk about Frodo and that, it came to me like the Iron Tower just reminded like Saruman's tower or Mordor, Baradur.
Exactly. Yeah, I was reminded of things, as well as the Tower of London from English history, because that tower is often called the royal prison by some of the English in a way, but also the royal guest chambers, as the Tower of London was often a place of some of the darkest episodes.
Because it says like it's a formidable pile of heavy stone and black iron. So you get that visual of like black castle. So
yeah, like Baradur.
Yeah. So cool stuff. So obviously, go ahead.
It's remarkable how much imagery you could probably do of how, if you were to just paint or draw what like towers and Black Horse Stairs that Howard wrote, and then just show it to a Lord of the Rings fan, they'd probably say that's Lord of the Rings. But it's, you know what I mean? There's so much imagery that's just right next to each other that could just pass as one another.
But I think it has to do with they drew heavily from same sources, like mythology, different classic adventures, fables, stuff like that. So they
Norse
had a lot of
songs.
that. Yeah. So so they had a lot of that same inspiration and cool stories.
So we can safely say it's you Scandinavians' faults.
Yeah. We'll take the blame. So this is interesting here. He's coming into the capital city of Tarantia, and he sees the Nemedian soldiers obviously drunk on their victory, accosting merchants, women, and all kinds of people. And Conan is, well, obviously angry at this, but tries to conceal himself. But like it says, he's so used to warfare and discipline and stuff like that. So he carries himself with a bearing, as it says in the story. So a sharp man would see through his disguise that this is someone that basically knows what he's doing, and someone that is determined to do something. And later on, we find out that someone did notice Conan. But so it says that he then he's going to the Iron Tower, and he's getting closer to that tower, and there's not. Well, basically, he has to restrain himself from not attacking the soldiers
because they're kind of desecrating his kingdom in capital.
Yeah.
Which this is I'm just going to also comment here. This is a radically different Conan in some ways from Phoenix on the Sword, in that story, you don't get a sense of Conan's love for Aquilonia. You do in the next few stories, which portray him as king, but it's interesting how here, though, you get the sense of a strong love for Aquilonia. Like this is...
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You can see that in the time that he's been king, he's truly come to love and nurture his people. And it's become an integral part of his character. That it's not just about, oh, well, this is my crown, this is mine. It's about, these are my people.
That's true.
I have a duty to them, and I will not let anyone harm them. He's become a true king.
Yeah, you can see the loyalty from his subjects. Like they're ready to die for him, even though they're not expecting him to come to the rescue. Yeah, you're right. That now that I think about it, obviously Phoenix on the Sword was the first story, so Howard was obviously still building the character. Obviously fine-tuning it would take some time to get to the perfection in that sense, even though that story is fantastic. But what I mean, like it goes obviously in a natural growth, the character through all the different stories. But you're right, it's missing in that one. In Phoenix here it's very, very apparent, very strong. But then again, he has been longer king here, so it makes sense.
And Conan has grown up. He's not the same youth he was in Phoenix on the Sword.
Well, he's not.
Different point.
I was just going to correct Dan and say I think he's around 40.
At a different point.
Yeah, I think he's either 30 or 40. Like, it's because I read in one of Howard's letters that the intent is Conan's around 40, and here he's about 44 or 45.
Yeah, I mean he's mature already in Phoenix on the Sword. He's become king. Like basically on the Tower of the Elephant and the Frost Giant's daughter, he would be very young and brash and different in that way. Same in the God in the Bowl.
And archetypally, he's not the same archetype as he was. He's now the king, not the warrior.
Well, I'd argue he was the king in that story. He's just in his warrior aspect. But here he's much more, like you said, the king in his fullness. There's one quote here that I really like on the first page of at least in my edition of the chapter 9. the Aquilonians were a proud race, and these were their hereditary enemies. Now, we've gone over enough times about Numidia and Aquilonia, but the Aquilonians being a proud race, and just to harken back to the Phoenix and the Sword, they had not yet fully accepted Conan in that story, because you had the one musician who was able to turn them against Conan. But on the other hand, the reaction of the men of Aquilonia is very similar to that of Conan himself, to these Numidians swaggering about and basically acting like they own the place, which they get the moment due.
They're kind of like, the Aesir and the Vanir, fighting border wars all the time, fighting, even though they're kind of the same race, basically, living right next door to each other, but never getting along, probably because of proud kings, and mainly probably because of proud counts and
Jarls.
barons, that land barons, they I would think they would ferment, the nobles, would ferment opposition to each other all the time. So that's what it became, for everyone else as well. They became natural enemies. I was gonna comment on that as well, the the natural enemies part. It's another thing that is parallel to the Vanir and Aesir, which is interesting.
Now, the Emporians are all mostly descended from the same people, but I ponder about how close ethnically they are to each other. If maybe the Numidians and the Aquilonians are ethnically apart from each other, if that adds a factor. Because you look at for example, the Han Chinese and the Japanese, or you look at the Frank in the Anglo-Saxons, for example. They scrapped for about 1,000 years. So I wonder if it's something like that.
Yeah. Then there's the, of course, Cimmerians and the Picts, which are completely natural enemies. But they're different. They're different races altogether. They have in Howard's, mythology or his world. I think the mention earlier in Thurian Age and before even that, the Picts come from the Pictish Islands, and Cimmerians obviously come from the Atlanteans. So they're completely on different.
Oh yeah, they're completely different
races. Yeah, completely different races.
At the end of the Thurian Age, the Picts kind of screwed over the Atlanteans and wrecked the civilization they were trying to build, and sunk them into barbarism. So yeah. So there's a long affinity.
But the Picts never got along with anyone. So.
No.
So,
if briefly so.
Which is interesting. Maybe one point that makes it interesting why they never got along. They worshipped the same god as the Stygians, Set. So
yeah.
So maybe
how kind and pure Set is in this world.
There was no map here. Too bad. Yeah, so we get to the Iron Tower. Conan obviously gets inside it very easily from his thieving days. He knows how to work the locks, so that doesn't stop him. And he enters the Iron Tower, and it's quite a dark tower inside as well as from the outside. And there he comes across the executioner, who is on his way to execute.
Just to highlight two things, we have the bell that on the citadel which tolls, so that we're kind of reminded of church bells, and this the paragraph during which of the bell and of Conan slipping in. Now there's no light that really, to help see in and out of the tower and whatnot. That the way it's written, once again, is strongly reminiscent of the Tower of London. I'm just going back to that just because.
All right, yeah.
When I read, when I've read a few sources, and when you look up how the Anglo-Saxon population felt about these Normans and the Tower of London, now the commoners centuries later felt about the Tower of London. It's very similar. Like you look at the Princes in the Tower story, like people would go in, there'd be no way of seeing, if they're really around, except for maybe the occasional sighting. And they, it's like a whole world away and you're cut off. And it's a very, very bleak, the history there is really bleak. And there's just a sense of ominousness whenever you look up the historic record of, at certain points in English history, this person was imprisoned in the Tower of London. And you go, oh boy, he's probably not coming out.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the Tower of London, but it actually makes a lot of sense now that you mention it. Speak on that.
Yeah.
It really actually fits very well as well.
And I just like that he takes on the identity of the execution.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I thought these two chapters were fantastic. The first chapter, or the 9th chapter, is we get awesome fight scenes, awesome battles here, great escape and all that stuff. And then on the next chapter we get a great stuff about the lore, like Saltatun and Azura and Mitra and all that stuff. I thought these two chapters were really good, really excellent and different.
I like I love the darkness in the tower and just a sense of a crushing weight and how dank it feels and
the doom.
Yeah.
The doom coming
This is great writing, and it's reminiscent also of, I think, some Edgar Allan Poe, and I think Le Comte de Monte Cristo. There's so much here to unpack, and it's such a great chapter. And with all this darkness and doom hanging about, it is all the more inspiring how Albiona just is willing to go to her grave for Conan. That's just incredible. And I was
thinking that she really is ready to die. That's awesome in that sense. I mean, in that sense, the loyalty, the aspect to because she could be they could do she could be really tortured. I mean, it's great. But then again, in ancient times, I think there was a lot more respect for the nobles and stuff like that. So
there's also there was also far less. Now during the Roman period, certain madmen were willing to kill the ladies of the court or of high nobility, but in the medieval period, you did not touch noblewomen or
exactly,
or nuns. It was you just don't do that, and and you don't mistreat them, and there's a certain amount. That's something that's very admirable about the medieval period is the amount of chivalry that was genuinely shown towards the ladies. And that's something that I know people like to bash chivalry. I like to quote, an ordinary knight had more in common with Tony Soprano than, let's say, Gawain or something. But on the other hand, medieval knights knew that there were some things they couldn't do.
Yeah.
But here, Valerius is willing to do it, which shows the depths of his black depravity.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, in a few chapters, Albiona is someone whom, she's terrified because she's essentially a lady. She's a member of the court, but she has got the guts to do this and stick to what she believes in. Like you said, it's just the utter loyalty. What's more is that I do wonder if she's one of those ladies from the court who does love Conan rather than just simply having ordinary loyalty.
That did cross my mind as well.
Because we know Conan has a harem. This has been stated in a few short stories.
Right. And I didn't think she belonged to that, but
on the other hand, I just mean she could be a countess, but a lover.
Well, wait, did Conan have a harem?
Because mentioned in what story was it? I think
because
captured.
I thought he was just with Zenobia only.
Oh, I thought I'm pretty sure in what is it, the Scarlet Tower, where he is briefly captured, and that is that plant monster and whatnot. I remember there being a reference to his women in their pale like being violated by the villains.
It could be also that he just kept the harem, because they have nowhere to go.
Fair enough.
That could, I don't know. I can't remember right now either.
Well,
I don't know.
That's as good a theory as any. I just don't project. Like, my view is just I don't like with Conan. I tend to think I don't know if he'd be entirely monogamous or have our concepts of monogamy because he's supposed to exist in the ancient world in a way. Yeah. But on the other hand, if we do assume that he was monogamous with Zenobia in the end, which is a fair assessment, I would say that with Albiona, it could be that she's pining after Conan.
It's just, I got this sense, every time he was with the great loves of his life, like Baelith. Valeria, I don't know if it's kind of hard to say with just one story if it became like that. But anyway, with Baelith and that stuff, that you definitely see, like he only has eyes for her. Like he's like at least that's to me, like Conan is like when he's in to someone, a woman, like really heart, soul, and body and mind, everything, like it's just that one. He doesn't care about the rest at that time, at that point when he's, at least that's just the feeling I got with Cole.
I got that feeling, but also he does have a womanizing side. I'm
but I mean it kind of goes. I meant it kind of goes on a pause,
Yeah,
it goes on a pause when he has that the real one, but who he's invested in. That's just what I meant.
Even with the notion that he's got, like that he has a seraglio, and that he actually enjoys the attention, so to speak. I got the sense that it's nothing like what he's got with Zenobia. That with Zenobia, it's completely different. This is a totally different bond because she's the queen archetype, and also she is truly the love of his life, and that it in a way elevates her as a lady because she's the one who captured the heart of Conan, and it makes her all the more important. But we know for a fact that no matter what, Conan has no sons at this time. So that's also an important factor to consider. And Albiona, even if we go with the notion she's not in love or that she has an unrequited love or something, Conan does not sleep with her in this story, from what I've read, as far as I've read. But he treats her with the utmost courtesy and honor.
Respect.
Respect.
Yeah, that's also a different thing, like from all the different stories. When he's now older a king, you see he's
Maturity.
a different, mature, a different kind of character in that sense to his earlier days.
Yeah, it's he might have actually decided to go out with her here and enjoy her attention over the course of the story. But here, like in his younger days, but here he's more concerned about her safety, and he doesn't consider getting even a kiss or something out of her. He's just like, okay, I've got my duties and whatnot. If Balin had never died, would Conan have become king? I don't think he would have. But I think that...
I think they would have taken a kingdom for themselves at some point, maybe.
Maybe carved one out of blood. But I'm weird. I kind of think that maybe Balin and Conan would have, if for a brief time at least, fallen to infighting.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think? Is Balin a bit too toxic? Like
there's
they would have come to blows at some point. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I've always had that same notion.
I don't think Conan would have wanted to live his entire life as a pirate.
Yeah, no.
No, he's too ambitious.
And that's what it gets down to, ambition.
And Balin's ambitious as well.
Because doesn't he want to become king at some point? So
he does. He states it in one of the early stories.
Yeah. So, I mean, he would accept Balit on the ride, but that's once again with the would Balit accept, to be just along for the ride. That's the...
Yeah. She clicked into a special place in Conan's... Well, maybe she would have gotten bored. I also think that it has to do with the fact that she liked being in charge, but the thing is, Conan was growing throughout that relationship. Like, at the start, he was the junior partner, but then something happened where it's like Caesar and Pompey. He kind of outgrew, and like, she was a great mentor and lover, but I think that like right before she died, she was headed down a toxic path. But when she did die, she redeemed herself, and this is the true Balit that comes out, the one who loved Conan and whatnot. So I think Balit's one of the most beautiful characters, but she was headed down a dark path.
Maybe she wouldn't have gone down a dark path. She would have, matured as well, just like Conan. So maybe who knows?
Either way, I lean towards the darker path with her. Weirdly, but anyways, yeah. But as for Albiona, I like just to get it back to her, I like that she mentally goes over how Valerius is young and handsome and many women love him, and how Albiona tries to fight with herself to convince herself she needs to live.
Yeah.
But then she's like, but I can't say yes to him. I'd rather the block, which just goes to show how creepy and evil he is at his core.
Yeah, he's so detestable. She's like, I can't have you touch me. I'd rather die. Also, just before there, the Conan takes out obviously the executioner, takes his garb, and then we get to the room where Albiona is about to be executed, and there's 3 Nemedians in that room with hoods on, so you don't at first know who they are. Even there, they have to conceal their identity because they're cowards. Probably going back to the thing that they're killing a noble, so they want to have that anonymity, like not be known if it someday gets known that she was killed. Who was the killer? They can't pinpoint. Maybe, I don't know
if they do.
Yeah.
Sorry, bad joke.
I didn't hear it.
I said because if it gets out that they were the ones who did it, they might get canceled or something.
All right.
Because this is worse than #MeToo. You actually killed her. You didn't. I don't know. Like, sorry, bad joke.
It'd be a very big pain in the neck.
I think Conan would just impale them. So anyway,
They deserve it.
yeah. So,
but I like how she recognizes Conan.
Just getting back to the Valerius thing, like she says, her flesh crawled with an abhorrence greater than the fear of death. Oh. that's well written. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can go any higher, in your description of distaste of someone.
Also, I wonder how Howard really does write female characters so very well. And they all seem so very different from each other.
Oh yeah, I really love Albiona here. Like she's a great character, fantastic character. Like
it just makes me wonder, like Howard had incredible insight into female psychology, and I'll just get to that great comment in a moment. Silverwave. I just wonder, I'm not thinking Howard was a womanizer or spent too much time like that, but he must have known a lot of girls and women and not so okay women over the course of his life and gotten incredible insight into them and whatnot, because his female characters feel very real, from Baelit to Valeria to Albiona to Zenobia, most of them ending in "ya" or but
I have to read the biography of him and the letters, because I don't know, for some reason I have like this thought that he didn't really intimately, Howard himself wasn't really that intimate with a lot of, but maybe he had like great female like mother, obviously his mother and friends and family and stuff like that.
I think the only girl we can safely say that he was probably intimate with was Noelle.
Yeah.
And that's only because of how well she knew him now.
Would be an interesting book to read as well.
Yeah, I really want to read both books.
It has a great title. I mean, it really, like, it says a lot without you knowing anything. The title of that book is "He Who Walked Alone."
Yeah,
it's really kind of sad, and obviously we know how Howard's life ended, so that's like doubly sad. So it's kind of like
he was a man who walked alone.
Yeah, like he's a man who walked alone, who felt isolated, who fought depression and stuff like that.
Poor
like
man.
Many do. Yeah.
But yeah, as for Conan being destined to become king, I think so as well. Especially if you look at him archetypally, he was always the king. It's just.
But one thing I love about Conan becoming king is that, obviously it took effort, but it feels effortlessly. Like he said, Silverwave said, like destined. So it doesn't feel like he strives in the sense like in a desperate sense, like a desperation, but it's like it falls to his lap. Like, okay, you're the best man, or you're the best man for the job because your heart is in the right place. Yeah. So he's in the right place because, as we see in this story, he really takes good care of his people. Like he really, like you said, he cares. He loves his people. He's not some tyrant.
God, if only we in Canada had a king like him.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, and I always get flack for it. It's like, I would take one righteous king over all these corrupt politicians any day. Like, throw them out, every last one of them, please.
Yeah, I guess.
And thank you. But anyway, we're in the. They're waiting for the executioner, and he just. It's fantastic. He just rolls into the dungeon, and where. Conan just like it's funny, he doesn't try to like play along and like get close, and then try to like sneak attack, but he just he just takes off it. Yeah, he just takes off his mask like, "Do you know me, dog?" Like he's like,
"Do you know me?"
Yeah, like zero cares. Like it's like, "Do you know me, dog?"
He uses the effect of the rumor that he died and his identity like a weapon here. It is, I know people might say that's really stupid, but this leaves them really open to shock. And it also leaves it in such a way that the situation becomes that they're too shocked to really hold on to Albiona. So really what he's doing here is freeing Albiona without having to move, because if he just attacks one of them, she might get hurt.
That's a good point.
So really good point. I looked at this as he's like, okay, I can't really charge because I don't want to hurt Albiona, and they might be a hostage or something. Or
so I just thought he was like, come on, man. like he was.
And then there's another matter of Conan pops up. All of the different enemies that allied with each other, most of them heard Conan was dead, so they start questioning each other.
Oh, there's also that. But here he's not trying to let them know. He does not want Valerius to find out he's alive yet. So
yeah. So they say, it is the king or his ghost. What devil's work is this? Devil's work to match devils, mocked Conan. Come fall to, my gentlemen. You have your swords, and I this cleaver. Nay, I think this butcher's tool fits the work at hand, my fair lords. Then they attack him.
I like how you have Albiona, the king. Oh, Mitra, the king. And she just immediately leaps towards them.
Yeah.
It's interesting how much faith she has in him. It could be a ghost or a devil, and she'd still leap towards him because she knows Conan and knows him as her king. And that's where she's got a lot of guts. And but I like how he just cuts through them with so little difficulty.
Yeah, this fight scene is fantastic. How it's described and how it plays out, I think, is really good.
I like how he says, "Dog, I thought I knew you, traitor, damned renegade. Even this base steel is too honorable for your foul head. Nay, die as thieves die."
Yeah, man, his death is one of the most gruesome. I think he cuts his arm off, and then he guts him, cleaves his gut, so his intestines fall out, and he leaves him to die. That's one brutal way to kill a guy.
It harkens back to Norse mythology with Othin again, because Othin was a judge of the wicked in a lot of roles, in a lot of stories. Like there's the one where the king had captured Othin and put him on a stake, I think near a fire or something, and the king's son would often bring him something to drink and taking care of Othin, and Othin caused the king to fall on his own sword gruesomely. So here he's taking on that kind of kingly judge role. And this scene really took me back to Norse mythology. So
I've been researching a bit about the frost giant's daughter, and there's this theory that he was very inspired by, I think his name is Bulfinch, Thomas Bulfinch. He wrote the Bulfinch mythology, and there is he writes about the Norse gods and stuff like that. So I just meant that would be an interesting book. I think I might get it at some point to read the Bulfinch mythology. There's the Greek gods and stuff about them, and then the Norse gods, and a lot of other things as well, and fables and stuff like that. And I think medieval knights as well, and stuff like that. So there was quite a lot. It's actually 3 books in one. Age of Fables, Age of Mythology, and what was the last one? I can't remember. Something. But it's all compiled into the Bulfinch mythology. So
noted.
Probably a cool book to read. Anyway, So he gets a really gruesome death, and it's interesting. We don't get to know who the traitor is at this point, but we do find out that in the next chapter, we do find out who it was.
Thespius.
Yeah, Count Thespius, and I couldn't remember who he was, to be honest. But obviously he's somebody ranked in the Aquilonian, in the nobles of Aquilonia, because they noted that he doesn't have an accent. He is Aquilonian, not Nemedian. So Conan just says, "Lie there and bleed to death." Then he just grabs the countess, and off they go through the dark tunnels. And he gets quite a lot of people like are on his tail, and he has to. He gets, I think, outside, but he has to fight a lot of guards, some of the elite guards as well. But
he's also carrying Albiona.
Yeah, it's like sack of grain. Like, let's go. Conan works out.
He never misses leg day.
Yeah, he never misses leg day. Maybe that's what he does with the harem. He just lifts.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I wonder, did they?
I'm not going to make comments about push-ups.
Yeah,
I wonder if did they, like in the ancient world, did they like work out, or was it brutal enough so they already like got their like physical workout in everything else? So
it depends on what you mean. Like for example, Roman soldiers had to do.
Oh right, yeah, true.
Run for drills to an extent, or at least
that's true.
Probably
the gladiator.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So men had to, like, you have the knights who had to ride on horseback and practice their feat of arms.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
The gladiators.
Yeah.
Probably worked out.
They essentially did work out, just not in the same way we might think of it.
Yeah.
Like the samurai would swing their swords or practice their archery, primarily their archery. If you look at Musashi, he says you have to practice your sword swings 1,000 or 10,000 times a day if need be. So the concept of workout and practicing your martial feats is there. So, yeah.
But anyway, so he runs through the corridors. He has to fight.
Rescued.
Huh?
I just simply said when he's rescued.
Yeah. We get. I'm going there. So he has to fight the elite guards, and it seems like he's about to be basically sandwiched behind with the prison guards and the elite guards in front of him. But the prison guards haven't as of yet caught up to him. But he interestingly gets help all of a sudden by people in dark hoods, or what do they call dark hoodies here? I don't know. So, and which is interesting, they save his life basically, and they call him, like they say to him, "This way, Your Majesty, quickly." So they obviously are showing their allegiance to him already by cutting the enemies and calling him Majesty. And Conan decides to then go with them, obviously, because that's the best chance right now, because he's about to be there. The prison guards are about to get close to him. Yeah. So he follows them, and they just say to him, like, "Fear not, King Conan. We are your loyal subjects." And he notes that they are from the Aquilonian central provinces, so they're not like foreigners in that sense, like Nemedians or someone else, which might have like given him even more suspicion, but he decides to trust them. And they go through a hidden door and stuff like that.
Which this
And-
was to later become a trope.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, that's
nobody ever was able to pull it off quite as good as well as Howard did here.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, as we later find out, these are the priests of Azura, and they actually have a very, very, very good reason why they have hidden doors and hidden passageways and stuff like that, because their religion had been basically persecuted and hunted and through lies, because the nations had basically lied about them and told lies since I don't know, was it even centuries? What?
Time immemorial.
Yeah, basically for centuries told lies about the priests of Azura and the Azuran religion. So
their situation is similar to the early Christians.
Yeah, so they basically, their religion was seen as like they were the set religion with human sacrifices and all kind of evil stuff, but it was actually the opposite. They weren't from the south, they were from the east, from Venduha. So,
which, like I said, there's a bit of a faint reference to Christianity, which it was for the Romans from the east.
Yeah,
it was the fact that was believed to practice cannibalism and human sacrifice because of the Roman phrase. I think it's drink from this is my blood, eat this bread,
is my flesh.
is my blood. But what's funny is that the Romans later, when they finally got to having conversations with Christians, were to go, well, yeah, they're like, whoops, sorry about all the massacres.
Well, I mean, it was more political stuff. I mean, they probably.
I was just going to say, if in the historic record, what's interesting is the nobility, or at least some of the Caesars were like, Christians, let's throw them all away. While the peasants are going, no, they're not cannibals. Like they're okay. They're cool. They're some of us.
Yeah, they're actually helping people a lot. There's records of that. So, but I think the point was that, it was a political thing. It was a perfect way to have a scapegoat for many different things, like we see with the Emperor Nero later on, using them as scapegoat for his insanity.
And big shit.
So basically, that's the end of this chapter. They basically they follow these Azuran priests, and they don't know where they're going. And that's when we get into the next chapter. A Coin from Acheron is my title, at least in this book.
Yep.
And there's a cool little illustration. It's Conan Albion with some kind of maybe that's the heart. I don't know what the symbolism is there. Is meant to be.
We forgot. I don't remember if we talked.
Did we forget
last time? But real quick on the name of Albiona, it sounds like Albion. Albion.
Oh, right.
Another name for the island of Britain.
Yeah.
Which derived from Alba, which is the Gaelic word for the island of Britain. So
yeah, that's why it was so like familiar sounding.
and
completely forgot. That's
Albiona. I think the idea there is that she's supposed to represent like the spirit of, at least the English, because it's the English who tend to call the island Albion, and the Scots just Alba in older days. So
it's an interesting choice for a name.
Yeah, I wonder if
Howard chose.
I wonder if it's a reference to there's the London Tower, but there's also the reference that maybe, because she's a spirit of femininity in a lot of ways, but maybe she represents, in a positive way, the strength and the feminine spirit of the English to an extent.
It must have been deliberate, because reading Howard's and his stories, his name of characters, I was just checking, like reading up on from another source, and he was basically saying that, just showing like how close these different names are to other names from mythology and history. So it seems like Howard deliberately chose names with meaning, that they had a specific meaning.
I think
So that's an interesting point.
I think that the notion that he chose things at random, I've seen that accusation leveled at him, is dumb, just to be blunt, and that he was like Tolkien. He never made a choice without a reason for it in his stories.
Oh yeah, I got to remember that. Guys, if you read the Frost Giant's Daughter, those names are like littered with mythology names and historical names. All the names that Conan chose in that story is really cool. It's really interesting, and it actually has now that I think about it, it has really deeper meanings. I gotta remember to put that into the video. It's very, very interesting stuff that has thematically and like it has deeper meanings to the story itself, where it's going.
That's what happens when you deal with fantasy and even mythology stories. You have to consider symbolism.
Yeah,
symbolism. You're not delving into a proper fantasy world.
Yeah. No, I just made a connection in Frost Giant's Daughter, and I was like, "Oh right, yeah, dude, that's so cool." Okay, sneak peek here, sneak peek. In Frost, we get small tangents. I just want to say, because I just figured this out. In Frost Giant's Daughter, the last guy to be killed by Conan is called Heimdall, which is taken from Heimdall from the Norse mythology, who is the keeper of the Bifrost or the Ragnarok. And when he dies is when Conan is transported to a landscape that seems strange to him, is what Howard writes. He didn't really understand the landscape all of a sudden. And that's when the goddess confronts Conan. So that's very interesting. Like he goes through the keeper or the guardian, and when he's dead, he enters into the supernatural, or to the gods, or their area, their home. So that's interesting that how Howard chose the names and the themes and the stuff like that. It's really cool.
I haven't read Frost Giant's Daughter yet, but that sounds pretty cool. So good.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
it's a short read, but it's its most mythological story. Anyway,
we're introduced to the priest Hadrathus, whom Conan ends up speaking with him at some length in this chapter while seated on an ivory throne, or at least an ivory chair. And ivory apparently is a symbol of chastity, opulence, and virtue.
Yep.
So that's perhaps there's a commentary there that Howard is remaining faithful to Zenobia in this story. Chastity of body there, and chastity of mind, and that he's not diluting himself with drink or overeat, indulging, or anything.
Mm.
And as for purity, because it also means that Conan is remaining pure as a king in every meaning of the word, for the most part. And opulence, well, ivory chairs are pretty opulent. And what was it? Sorry, I'll just reopen a tab. And as for virtue, there's no one more virtuous than Conan in this story. So,
I mean, he doesn't really have time to think of women.
No, things are happening.
Like his whole city and land is completely overrun, and he's being hunted by a mad king and a mad wizard. So like he just wants to, take it all back, and he's got to focus. he's a lot of.
Just to correct you, a mad king or three.
Who's the third one?
I was being Zaltatune. You have Valerius, you have Tarascus, and you have Zaltatun of Sorts.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
PG.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
But who's counting?
Yeah, 2 or 3. But then again,
Who's-
Amatrius or Amalric is the one who's the power behind Valerius.
Right,
so
right. I completely forgot the Aquilonian king, the
he's such a-
Tarascus, yeah, Orden, yeah,
they're all such weaklings.
yeah.
In will and kingliness.
Oh no, Tarascus was the king of the media, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that Conan is asked, "What is your wish, Your Majesty?" Food first.
Well, yeah, it's probably famished from all the
And I
work
like
he had to do.
Albiona, beware, Your Majesty. These folk eat human flesh. Conan, I'll stake my kingdom that this is nothing but honest roast beef. Come, lass, fall to. You must be hungry after the prison fare. He's just like, yeah, I don't care at this point. I'm starving. There's no way they're going to feed me human flesh.
Obviously, though, it's no wonder she asked, because as it says here, that's what she's been taught since she was a little girl, so she doesn't know any better. And I think it's cool that we learn from Hadrathus, like, obviously Conan asks, like, why did you do this? That there's obviously reasons for this help and stuff like that. So it's cool that we learn that, well, you were a friend to us when you were king, so we're just paying back your kindness.
Because he believed in religious toleration.
Yeah. But what I like about that point is also that he wanted evidence, which I think is a good basis for anything, like when they came to him with the baseless accusations about the Azura religion, and he was like, well, produce some evidence of this, what you're accusing them of, so I can make a ruling. But they never did, so he was like, yeah, just let them live. Like,
what's the point?
Yeah.
But if they commit a crime on my watch, there'll be hell to pay.
I think it's cool that he says here, if they are black magicians, that was the accusation he had said, how will they suffer you to harry them? If they are not, there is no evil in them. Crom's devils, let men worship what gods they will. Which is a fair point. So that's then they eat, and let's see. He asks them to help him, regain the kingdom, and this is where they then decline, and Conan gets upset with like, what ails the men of Aquilonia? Like, first service, now can you do nothing but wag your idiotic heads when I speak of ousting these dogs? And that's when we learn where Hadrathus then tells him, like, Your Majesty, it's not about the manpower, it's not about that, but it's the evil wizard or the black magic that's behind all of this. We have to first deal with Xaltatun to then deal with Valerius and Tarascus and all these other guys. And that's where King Conan then learns about Xaltatun and the actual what he, like, the actual, that he is actually the big problem here. He's not just some magician. He's not just some black magician. It goes way beyond that.
He's no. I hope people won't mind me saying this. He's no measly Fafamon. He's.
Oh, come on, Fafamon.
No, I say that as a Fafamon fanboy. I'm just saying, like, I really like Fafamon. But he's no mere Fafamon.
I think Fafamon is actually quite close in power with the Ring of Set. When he has the Ring of Set, I think he's quite close in his power.
I kind of thought of him. I kind of thought of Fafamon in terms of power, maybe to a Saruman at his peak, and Zaltatun in a way as a Sauron. Like,
yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess it's just because I got taken away by how they talk about Zaltatun, so I began to think of him as a Dark Lord, like on par of Sauron or something.
Right.
And but yeah, I also figured that since Zaltatun was older, he might have some knowledges and powers that escape Fafamon at present. But given enough time, Fafamon could probably one day become his equal. And if you gave him the heart of Ahriman on top of the ring of Set, he'd be unequaled in power. So,
but actually, we learn interesting. What we'll get to that. We learn an interesting thing about Xaltatun in this chapter. But here, Hadrathus then answers Conan what is the problem. The freedom of Aquilonia is at an end. Nay, the freedom of the whole world may be at an end. Age follows age in the history of the world, and now we enter an age of horror and slavery as it was long ago. And then the king then demands, like, what do you mean? And then he explains that it's not alone the rebellious lords of Aquilonia and the armies of the media which are arrayed against you. It's sorcery, grisly black magic from grim youth of the world. An awful shape has risen out of the shades of the past, and none can stand it before. What do you mean? I speak of Xaltatun of Acheron, who died 3,000 years ago, yet walks the earth today.
Here, Hadrathus talking rather similarly to how Gandalf talks to Frodo, and how Gandalf and Elrond speak to Boromir, and just in the context of, we're not against an ordinary enemy you can fight with armies and swords.
Yep.
We're up against someone far greater than you can imagine. And this scene is very similar in that regard. And this is a very chilling scene, like with the Gandalf and Frodo conversation.
Yeah, it's basically Hadrathus is aligning, like he's saying, Conan, you're thinking this way and you're going this way, but no, you have to change your course if you're going to have any chance. The armies and all that stuff, that's completely secondary. Xaltatun, and what he explains here, Heart of Ahriman, that is your number one mission first, if you want to have any chance. Because he's quite right. I mean, Conan could like destroy the armies, but like, what would that matter? Like, he would still have to fight Xaltatun, and he could probably raise an army from the dead, basically.
Yeah.
Or send his shadow ones to kill Conan, and like he tried to in the beginning of the Hour of the Dragon. So
except this time he'd be sending them to kill, not capture.
Yeah. So that will be.
But I like how even Conan speaks in hushed tones of Acheron, and how he says, Zaltatun of Acheron, man, are you mad? Acheron has been a myth for more centuries than I can remember. I've often wondered if it ever existed at all.
Yeah.
And you have Hadrathus who tells him it was a black reality, an empire of black magicians steeped in evil, now long forgotten. It was finally overthrown by the Hyborian tribes of the West. The wizards of Acheron practiced foul necromancy, thaumaturgy of the most evil kind, grisly magic, taught them by devils. And of all the sorcerers of that accursed kingdom, none was so great as Zaltatun of Python.
Yeah. That's a very interesting lore bit that we learn more about Acheron, like what it was. And so it was ruled by the black magicians.
And once again, we have the Acheron, which is, this is an unequaled empire, and it's at its peak. And it's the tribes of the West, which, once again, like Tolkien does the exact same thing. It's the men of Western Essie, the tribes of the West, that come in to rescue and people and save the day from long ago to overthrow a dark empire. So they're thinking in similar terms, archetypally and mythologically here. So It's really, 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 really cool to see these similarities.
And then there's once again the name thing, also another thing that really just jumped out on me. Obviously, Acheron, if someone doesn't know, is obviously it's a river, I think, in Hades. So
Yeah.
it's meant to symbolize. He's obviously chosen like the most evil, like a cool name, but that really symbolizes evil.
And you have
There's
Python.
you have Python. Yeah, it's also a name of a demon, as I've learned. So,
and it's also a snake.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's also very
Talon.
interesting choice of names here. Once again, like pretty fittingly chosen names.
The river of pain.
Yeah, so it has like yeah, exactly like this. So it's really thematical symbolism once again.
And snakes are creatures. Well, are in a lot of mythologies evil creatures.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of symbolism.
So here, then Adrastus goes on and says, by some means of a source of cosmic power which he jealously guarded was stolen and turned against him. The source has been returned to him, and he is invincible. So they're obviously talking here then about the heart of Ahriman, and this is where he tells Conan like that this is the thing that you have to turn against him, like they did 3,000 years ago, to have a chance.
Here's another thought. Look to the heart of your kingdom. What's below the heart of the kingdom? The priests of Asura. They're hidden under the shadows. The thought just occurred to me.
All right.
Yeah. Which Howard was very clever with that wordplay.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Man, if only sorry, part of me is just wishing we had recordings of the man talking like we do Tolkien.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, because it just to at least get a sense of the intelligence of the man, like just in that kind of.
I mean, he did leave a lot of letters, though. So
yeah, we do have that. So, but I just mean like it's different to see the man in a screen or something and get almost a personal sense of him.
Yeah,
and it's just, oh man.
So here, obviously, Conan is still not really believing. He says, "Are you making game of me? Like that this is a joke?" That he thinks that it's someone who has just taken Xaltatune's name and appearance, basically, just pretending to be the Xaltatune of myth or legend. But then they have a coin. The priests of Azur have a coin from Acheron, and they show that to Conan. And Conan looks at it and is very taken aback and recognizes Xaltatune. That it is indeed the man from Acheron. By Crom, it's he. He understood now the sense of familiarity that the sight of the bearded man had roused in him from the first. He had seen a coin like this once before, long ago, in a far land. He kind of still thinks that maybe it just is a coincidence, but he doesn't believe it himself that either. He really believes now that it is Xaltatune.
Yeah. And this scene of him staring at the coin and realizing who it is it's such an ominous moment.
Yeah. Because we also get like here, a wizard was understandable, but this was diabolism beyond sanity. So even he understood that Acheron was a step beyond the normal black magicians like you Like this is the pinnacle, basically. As it said, as Hadrathus explained, they were taught by devils, personally. So we are at the top of the evil chain, so to speak.
Which begs the question if maybe that first cataclysm that ended the Thurian Age was caused by those devils to actually
that's
the age of Acheron.
Yeah. I have an article about that. I gotta read more about Acheron. It would be interesting to read about the rise of Acheron. Like how did it rise? Like what were how did they came to be, basically?
I got to see that video in that article.
Yeah, it was actually in one of the trade paperbacks. I think it was maybe in the Jewels of Gwalhur trade paperback. I can't remember. No, wait. It was in the Thoth Amon one, where it what's it called? Where it's about Thoth Amon's youth, when how he becomes Thoth Amon. I think there at the end there's a great lengthy article about Acheron, like very detailed, really cool. I was just like, whoa, that's very interesting. Someone has made a long article about it.
Well, tell me what story it is, and I'd love to read that article.
Yeah, it's
when you find it.
Yeah, I gotta see, like.
I like how Conan tries to react with reason. The likeness is only a coincidence, a coincidence.
Yeah.
Or if he's shrewd enough.
Yeah,
and it's like.
But he doesn't believe it. He accepts. Like, he doesn't even believe his own.
Yeah.
Deflection.
We cannot doubt that it is indeed Zaltatun of Titan. He it was who shook down the cliffs at Valkia by his spells that enthralled the elementals of the earth. He it was who sent the creature of darkness into your tent before dawn. And
yeah.
Here, what's interesting about the priests of Asura is that they show themselves to be very knowledgeable and insightful in a way that it's peculiar, because how do they know things that are happening so far from the capital?
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. That's why Conan asks, like, how do you know?
And yet, there's a limit to their knowledge. And the limit is shown when they reveal that they didn't know, I think, that the heart of Ahriman had been stolen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I love the history lesson. Men say our cult is a survival of the ancient Stygian serpent worship. That is a lie. Our ancestors came from Venya, beyond the Sea of Vilayet, in the blue Himalayan mountains. We are sons of the East, not the South. We have knowledge of all the wizards of the East, who are greater than the wizards of the West, and not one of them, but would be a straw in the wind before the black might of Zaltatun. That's interesting. So that the East is a much stronger mystic.
At least according to them. Yeah, according to him, yeah.
Which he has good reason to be biased. But on
biased. Yes.
He is biased in favor of his cult. But on the other hand, this notion of the East having greater mystical might and force than the Occidental.
Well, I mean, that's debatable, because Acheron was obviously,
exactly, and
stronger.
What I was going to say is a trope that has come to almost haunt fantasy over and over again. And you get like Full Metal Alchemist, where the Alcaestrians become basically a deus ex machina in the story with no real logic to how their mystical system works, in contrast to the alchemy of Amestris, which actually has logic and makes sense. You have, and I am criticizing the story there. Alcaestry is so poorly written. It's basically just the author's whims interfering with the story. And I don't say that because I dislike Fullmetal Alchemist. I love the story, but it's just Alcaestry makes no sense. And you look at other stories, they often go back to this idea. Some really well, like no joke. Dragonlance kind of has some of the best mages of the ancient period come from Sylvanesti and Istar, and it is very fascinating. And Dragonlance is able to use that kind of Eastern mystical side in their world pretty well in terms of world building. But the trouble is, not all writers are equal, so to speak. Some are less talented than others. And while Hadrathus says that, well, we're better than most Western wizards, as you mentioned, there's Acheron, which kind of stands in the way of that argument.
And Thothamon.
Yeah. And Thothamon.
Yeah.
And
Stygians. Yeah.
But maybe they're better than many of the West black mages excluded. But
maybe.
On the other hand, I'm actually going to throw one thing at Hadrathus. Whether he likes it or not, he's a Westerner.
That's true.
Pokes a hole into his argument.
But he thinks of himself as Eastern, I guess, like his line or his what he's been learned, what he has learned as Eastern. But yeah, Conan just asked, like, is there no wizard in the world who could make magic to fight Exalted Tune's magic? And then we get what you said there, that they don't. The Azuran priest doesn't know anyone who could stand against Exalted Tune. And then, but as Conan rightly says, but he was conquered once. And that this is where we once again get to a cosmic source was turned against him. But now that source is again in his hands, and we'll see that it is not stolen again.
Just to reference something, not one of them, but would be a straw in the wind before the black might of Xaltotun. Right here, no wizard can equal Xaltotun. That's what ended up convincing me that Thothamon is not the equal of Xaltotun.
Yeah, I understand. I just meant like Thothamon, I think, would be close in power.
Yeah.
That was just with the Ring of Set, I mean.
But I think that one of the worst case scenarios would be if the heart of Ahriman fell into Thothamon's hands.
Yeah, if he knew how to use it. But that's one of the interesting points that we learn here later, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. But there's we learn about one very interesting part about the heart of Ahriman, which I didn't remember at all in regards to Exalted Tune. So it's very interesting, but we'll talk about it when we get to that. Anyway, and Conan asks, obviously, what's the source? And it's called the heart of Ahriman. When Acheron was overthrown, the primitive priest who had stolen it and turned it against Exalted Tune hid it in a haunted cavern and built a small temple over the cavern. Thrice thereafter, the temple was rebuilt, each time greater and more elaborately than before, but always on the site of the original shrine, though men forgot the reason therefore. So basically saying that it was forgotten, the heart of Ahriman, until it was stolen. And this is where the biggest problem for Exalted Tune and against Exalted Tune. So it's obviously of very great importance. But here's a very interesting part, which I already in my Mitra video talked about, but it's a really cool info just like thrown away here. But when the magic of the Mitran priests failed against the magic of Exalted Tune's acolyte Altaro, they remembered the ancient legend of the heart, and the high priest and an acolyte went down into the dark and terrible crypt below the temple, into which no priest had descended for 3,000 years. But I just meant that interesting here we get confirmation that the Mitran priest did actually use magic, which is not mentioned anywhere else. This is the only time it's mentioned. So that's the only canonical lore bit of from Howard that yes, the Mitran priest did actually do magic as well as the other.
And we also found out that Altaro, Zaltatune's acolyte, was around for a while.
Yeah, and they couldn't defeat him really.
Yeah, so he obviously had a bit of a apprentice of sorts. In the ancient Ironbound volumes, it also told of a creature of darkness left by the ancient priest to guard it. Yeah. Now I'm not at the point where that crypt is inspected. I believe, if I know Howard as well as I think I do, Conan's going to have to go down there. I'm just guessing, but
yeah,
I don't know. But that said, it looks like, the Mitran priests had to
search out for the heart of Ahriman to use it against.
It was gone. Yeah,
it was gone. And then they had to fight the keeper of the crypt.
Yep.
Mangle, the high priest, he died, but the acolyte fought off the being, a mindless, soulless wave of the pits brought long ago to guard the heart, and escaped up the long, black, narrow stairs carrying the dying priest, who, before he died, gasped out the news to his followers, bade them submit to a power they could not overcome, and commanded secrecy. But the word has been whispered about among the priests, and we of Azura learned of it. But here is the very interesting one. I didn't remember this at all, but then again, it was a long time ago I read this story. But Exaltatune draws his power from this symbol. No, his power is drawn from the Black Gulf, but the heart of Ahriman came from some far universe of flaming light, and against it the powers of darkness cannot stand. When it is in the hands of an adept, it is like a sword that might smite at him, not a sword with which he can smite. It restores life and can destroy life. He has stolen it, not to use it against his enemies, but to keep them from using it against him. I completely forgot that. I thought it was like a thing that amplified his powers, but it actually is just a thing that can be used against him. So he's holding on to it, so it can't be used against him. But there is the point, though, that it has to be an adept, someone who knows how to use it. So maybe also Xaltatune doesn't really know how to use it, because it says here it's from some far universe. It's from somewhere completely different, from somewhere else. So maybe that also stops him from using it. But I thought that is interesting. So that in that way it differs from the One Ring and Sauron, because this is from somewhere else and he can't use it. And he doesn't amplify his powers.
It's rather similar to two things that appear in Tolkien's Legendarium. You have Gandalf's ring, which Gandalf relies upon to boost his abilities. And you have the flame imperishable, which is the source of life and is with Eru Ilúvatar, but is also at the heart of Arda. And the thing about Eru Ilúvatar in the Legendarium of Tolkien is that he is entirely otherworldly. He is beyond any human understanding. And this Heart of Ahriman is very similar in that regard. It is beyond our understanding. Now, previously, in previous episodes, I had theorized, I guess it's probably a black source of power, or source of black power, and that it's the One Ring. Nope. Here, Howard completely flips it on his head and says, actually, no.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
but also terrifying, because that means that Saltatune is actually very powerful and doesn't need something to amplify his powers. He is just that powerful without anything extra. He doesn't have to have a MacGuffin that needs to be destroyed or something. But in this sense, it's obviously the heart of Ahriman, but it's like
on the other hand, it's
plus
anchoring him, in the living world, because it restored his life. So his essence must be tied in some way to it. And I'm just guessing. And what's more is, as for Sauron, he had to pour. If he didn't pour his essence into his one ring, he was going to lose it, a great deal of his power, because he was becoming more enmeshed in creation in the physical world and losing his connection to the spiritual world. So the one ring was a way of preserving his energies and powers, at those of a Maiar. But Zaltatun was never in any danger of losing power or anything.
That's cool.
I'm just theorizing that maybe this anchors him here, but the power that he wields is all his own.
Yeah.
So
that's also interesting. Like, just thinks, like, brings me back to the Tower of the Elephant, where, what was the elephant's name again? Was it Yara? Or was that the I forgot. But anyway, he also is from a far distant place, like from another universe or planet or whatever. So that's also like an interesting connection. Like we talked about earlier in earlier episodes, we talked about that, like, this is a theory. Obviously it can be confirmed. Probably was not. It's just a fun theory to think about. What if the heart of Ahriman is the heart of the elephant that is in the elephant tower? Because now here's another connection. The elephant creature comes from a far distant place, and so does the heart of Ahriman comes from a far distant place. So it's just an interesting, like, small thing, but it's just I like the connectivity. Like, you can draw, like, you can, like, a bit connect stuff like that, but you don't have to believe it. It's just interesting theory, fun theory to think about. Because it's also, then he, like, Conan asks what is the heart, and he's told that it's in form of a great jewel like a ruby, but pulsing with blinding fire, with which no ruby ever burned. It glows like living flame. And that's when not Crom, but Conan remembers. He says, "Crom, what a fool I've been. The heart of Ahriman, the heart of my kingdom. Find the heart of my kingdom," Selata said. "By Ymir, it was the jewel I saw in the green smoke, the jewel which Tarascus stole from Xaltatun while he lay in the sleep of the Black Lotus." So this is where Hadrathus then also learns that it has been stolen, and which makes it a point that, okay, maybe we can get it because it's not being guarded now by Xaltatun. So.
And it's commented that Zaltatun himself would himself have cast it into the ocean long ago had he not known that the first storm would carry it ashore. On what unknown beach might it not land? What this reveals is the heart can't really be destroyed in a conventional manner, and it is something that seems to have a will of its own. In that regard, it's like the One Ring. It has like, you can't just chuck it into the sea, like the same with the ring. Like, you can't just chuck this into the sea; it'll find its way back. And
that's
the difference
interesting.
Is that the heart of Ahriman, I don't know whether we could say its will is good or bad or something, but it obviously moves with purpose.
Yeah.
The ring obviously is malevolent and wicked, but
I would actually say here that the heart of Ahriman is actually of the light, because Hadrathus says that it is of the light.
Fair enough.
Like a bit like the board game Jumanji in the movie. How no matter what anyone can do to get rid of it, it'll find someone else.
Well, yeah, but as World of Conan pointed out, this heart is good, which I wonder if it is the heart of the elephant.
Because it says is, and against it the powers of darkness cannot stand when it is in the hands of an adept. It's like the sword that might smite at him, not a sword with which he can smite. It restores life and can destroy life. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously a force of good and with good intent.
From some far universe of flaming light. So he does make like reference to the light and stuff like that.
What I was wondering about is maybe I was thinking like it's kind of beyond our understanding in a way, because a lot of wickedness comes about because of this thing. But ultimately, like along the road. But ultimately, because like Zaltatun coming back to an extent isn't exactly good. But on the other hand,
well, yeah, obviously
he was probably meant to come back to an extent. And maybe it's better that he come back in the time of Conan, because who else could stop him and make it permanent? So I'm just thinking Conan was like the heart of Ahriman. Maybe it's taking more a long-term view of good in a way, so that we maybe can say it's good but not safe. It's will, because at the time in the 30s, good and safety or good and security were not equated with each other. Good was never safe, but it was righteous and it wanted to do well by you. And it was evil that offered the succor of safety and lied to you and said you could be safe or something.
Oops.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So you're thinking like the heart of Ahriman has a will of its own.
Yeah.
Because you could make the case that it just wants to be found at it, but that's the extent of its will. That it's more of a cosmic power with, yes, some characteristics like to mostly be used for good, like but not more of a
not conscious.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't have like a very strong will that wants to do a certain thing. Like, but it's more of a
it wants Zaltatun permanently put aside. It wants, like, for example, maybe like Conan to find it. It wants to banish darkness, but it's not like it's controlling the entire road there to an extent. It's just, it works more like influence, not control.
Right. Well, probably because obviously we know we don't know how this story is going to end, because we know the Conan stories. So what I mean that Conan does not die.
It's the journey, not the end.
So obviously he wins. So the heart of Ahriman obviously turns against Zaltatun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is really cool. Like the similarities, like, you know, he would have thrown it into the ocean, and then you think about Lord of the Rings. So that's very interesting. Then he then thinks that he obviously he has to steal it back, or steal the heart of Ahriman, and he then thinks like a thief, because it was given to a thief to throw it. But, you know, as he remembers of his earlier days, a thief will never throw a good thing away. He will make money of it. Thieves can be pretty dumb. They don't understand the much more serious implications of magic and the bigger things that are going on. They're just ultimately completely selfish in the moment. So they don't understand.
Also, Hadrathis tells him, "All right, I will send men with you." And like he's getting carried away. He's like, "Yeah, we're so gonna kick this guy's rear. We're gonna go and do that." Now, hold on.
Yeah.
He says, "I go alone," but he also says, "First to Potain, where I'll leave Albiona with Trocero." The first concern is making sure Albiona is safe here because he has his duty, like as a king before, like like to the fair lady before he goes off. Basically, the idea is loyalty to the principle of kingship. That is to say, to see to the needs of the people before going off to destroy the enemy. So, in that regard, Conan is sticking to principles over anything else.
Yeah, but it's cool here. Like it's like he says by Crom, he's thrown back and forth in his growing excitement. It's worth looking for. Celata bade me find the heart of my kingdom, and all else she showed me proved to be truth. Can it be that the power to conquer Xaltatun lurks in that crimson bauble? And then, like you said, Hadrathus is like, he gets really excited. I my head upon it, his face lightened with fervor, his eyes blazing, his fists clenched. With it in our hands, we can dare the powers of Xaltatun, I swear it. If we can recover it, we have an even chance of recovering your crown and driving the invaders from our portals. It is not the swords of Nemedia that Aquilonia fears, but the black arts of Xaltatun. And that is true. Like throughout the story, like where Conan came in the earlier chapter into Tarantia and stuff like that, at least in my sense, you can feel like, like Conan says, like, where are the men of Aquilonia? Like, why are they suddenly cowards? I don't remember them being cowards, like being people who just like run away, who don't like fight back, like guerrilla attacks or like revolutionary attacks, like doing something. Why is everyone so afraid? So, but that's because Xaltatun, the black arts, it's like permeating the whole area. They know something is off, and they're like, this wouldn't have happened. Like stuff doesn't happen this fast. Like there's something very strange going on, and obviously they have some clue of, or they have heard that there's a black magician that's running the show. So. But what I meant is that you can see it, at least when you read those earlier chapters, you can see the lay of the land, like we talked about, that it like permeates the darkness or the presence of Xaltatun. That that's why the men of Aquilonia are backing off, and that's why they need to, obviously one of the reasons why they need to get the heart of Ahriman.
His presence is like a dark shadow over the land.
Yeah, you can see it in writing. That's what I mean. Like it's permeating in the land.
Yeah. You nailed it there. And what I also like is that we then cut to Count Thespius, who's who's basically bloodied, and he's
dying from that horrible wound.
He interrupts Valerius, who was amusing himself with prostitutes. And I like how this is basically from Valerius's point of view, and he's like, gasped out a garbled story of a bloody prison break and the escape of a lovely captive. He's still thinking, oh yeah, she's so hot, Albion. Which is just like, dude, priorities. You have a dying man in front of you, and yet he's still going, well, I wish I got a shot with her.
He's nothing more than a minion, essentially. Why would he care?
True enough, I guess.
Yeah. These guys don't care about anything.
And I like how Count Vespius says, Valerius, he lives. Conan lives. What are you saying? I swear by Mitra. But, yeah. It's like, wow. Like any of your oaths matter, Thespius, because you broke yours to Conan. That's what I'm thinking here. But I like how he just explains.
He gives a great like dead man speech here. Valerius, this is used a lot in later on in tropes and movies and stuff like that. You give that one epic send off. Lines like it was he who carried off Albiona. He's not dead. No phantom come back from hell to haunt us. He's flesh and blood, and more terrible than ever. The alley behind the tower is full of dead men. Beware, Valerius. He has come back to slay us all. He dies. It's like, thanks, buddy. Like I could have. I don't need the nightmare version. You can just tell me like Conan's back. Okay, all right.
But instead, he whacks
and basically gives you, you're doomed. So just you're doomed. Just stop at what you're doing and just die. It doesn't matter.
But yeah,
it's kind of funny.
What's funny is that no one ever this becomes a trope in fantasy and horror, but no one ever quite manages to give this kind of warning except under Howard's pen. Just I love this speech. He is not dead. No phantom comes back from hell to haunt us. He was flesh and blood. Like, I'm almost reminded of the talk of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. But on the other hand, it's like no one could write almost no one could write this like Howard could.
In those movies, it's not really about the writing. It's more about the shot and the mood. Basically, tells the same thing, but in a different way.
Here, it's just perfect mood, shot, dialogue. Yeah. And I like how you have Valerius, who now this is also a trope. He frowns down at the dead man, and then he turns to the guards and says, "Have all the gates been closed?" This itself is a trope, turning away from the corpse and whatnot in that manner. And I like how and of course you have the triple the guards at each gate thing, which it's always triple. Why not quadruple? Why not double? It's always triple.
How about quintuple?
I think it's always double the guards. Double the guards is the most the trope used in movies, at least, and stuff like
it's
that.
It's double the guard. Sometimes it's triple, but it's never quintuple.
Well, you need some guards for yourself.
Yeah, I guess. Especially if you have Conan, the Cimmerian, after you.
That reminds me. Have you seen the Three Musketeers movie? The one with Tim Curry playing the Cardinal Richelieu.
Oh, no. I think I did long ago, but not recently.
Neither have I.
Guys, you got to watch that. That's a fantastic movie. Like Tim Curry is such a good.
We really should put it on our schedule.
Yeah. Evil villain. I mean, we can even watch it for the movies of Steel. I mean,
okay.
I love that movie. It's just I kind of was reminded of the evil Bishop Cardinal. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Richelieu, the Cardinal. Tim Curry is perfect in that role. So,
and what's funny, historically, Richelieu was best friends with King Louis.
Yeah,
and I just remember reading the historic record of how Richelieu a few times broke down sobbing around his monarch, just like, please stop bullying me. I'm just doing the best I can for my job. You have Louis who just bop him on the head sometimes, like, do better, serve me better.
Yeah,
but it's great. Historically, Louis and Richelieu were partners.
Yeah.
Because it was easier to divide the duties of kingship in two.
Yeah, so it was creative license in the movie and probably in the book as well. They make it seem like the Cardinal is the one above, who's the mastermind, and the king is just dumb. He's like, actually, I'm stupid.
They're of equal intellect. They're both geniuses.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they won. But anyway, it's fun. It's just reminded me of that. So then, obviously, Valerius is like, he wants to keep this a secret. Well, obviously, because if everyone knows Conan is back, it's not good for morale, and it's not good for people, like he says, to accept him as the new ruler, because they grudgingly accepted him as the ruler instead of the Nemedian king. So he wants to keep that a secret. And he just tells them to kill the Countess Albiona and kill him as well. And they didn't see him. They don't know it is Conan.
I like how he says, "When I found you starving in the Catan jungles, exiles from your kingdom, you swore to serve me. You have served me well enough in your abominable way. One more service I require, and then I set you free of your oaths."
Yeah, we got to say first who these guys are. These are, it seems, 4 servants of Valerius that he found in Khitan jungles, and they have served him well. I think they're kind of like assassins, probably, but they have some kind of powers, it seems, which would have been really cool that we would have gotten a story set in Kitai. From Howard. That would have been really, really, really awesome.
This also shows that Valerius was pretty well traveled.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, that he was traveled. Maybe, in history, that was obviously a thing that happened to those who were thrown away, those royal brothers or cousins who were exiled. So they traveled. Yeah, they sought the help from other monarchs who, if they would help them to take the throne, so they would get something as well. So maybe that's the reason why he's traveled. He's searching a way to elevate himself, get power in some way to take back what he feels is his. So maybe that's where he came across these guys. But it is interesting, these 4 guys from Kitai, who seem to be, I don't know, are they like because it says it's summoned before him 4 men of curious and alien aspect. So maybe that's just words used for them here, like meaning strange. But I was kind of thinking that maybe they are some kind of creatures, like some kind of. But it does say like they were kicked out of Kitai, so exiles from your kingdom.
They're almost described like the Nazgul.
Yeah, so they're kind of like, I don't know. Maybe they are just Kitai people. Maybe they're just basic people. It just seemed from the descriptions that they might be something else.
Well, they're not. I don't think they're snake men, but maybe there's something.
No.
I was just gonna say, maybe there's something that is otherworldly and inhuman in a way, similar to the snake men, but different from them. They're not snakes, but like there's something else, something other.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that they're not really proper Khitans, but they're otherworldly monstrous creatures.
Yeah, they did remind me of ninjas.
Yeah, maybe that's what Howard was. That sort of thing was what he was going for. I like the idea that there might be something of horror to them, but I've not read much further than this chapter, just a few paragraphs into chapter 11. And I was busy catching up with the French edition. And there's something very otherworldly about these dudes.
Yeah.
And now we get something else. We get them chasing after Conan. So we got this chase sequence that's being set up.
But this is interesting also, the point that so do you think he's gonna tell Xaltatun or not? Because
I don't think he will, but if he does, it's because he slips it up. Just in the context of, well, we're all allies, not realizing it kind of makes Tarascus look a little.
But which is better, like for Valerius, to deal it with it himself or tell Xaltatun?
I think he's thinking that the others are scheming behind his back, so he's not going to tell them. And
do you think he could think? No, he's probably not this smart. But like, that he would think that Conan might go after Xaltatun, so that he lets him take out Xaltatun because he's obviously afraid of him, and then he would take out Conan. I don't think he can think that far ahead. I think it's just his throne he's worried about.
Yeah, Valerius has been established as the stupidest of this group of conspirators.
Yeah.
All he wants is the pretty chair and the nice hat.
And the hot babes. Don't forget about the babes.
Definitely can't forget about that. I mean, Conan has good taste,
I guess. But the trouble is, Valerius seems to also have really good taste, but the difference is one is scum and the other isn't. But Valerius is he's a figurehead for the Baron of Tor, and the only thing is, I think that the ones who can think that far ahead are probably Tarascus and Orestes. But I don't know, like, Orestes is such a mystery. So I don't know which way he'll go. As for Tarascus, he's obviously trying to do that sort of thing. The problem is he lacks the ability to.
I don't think Orestes will, if someone who's watching doesn't know, he's one of the, he was once a priest of Mitra, but he is now into black magic, and he helped raise Xaltatun. I think he's too smart to go against Xaltatun unless he had a completely sure thing. I mean, a complete sure thing for him to elevate himself, basically.
Yeah, Orestes is way too smart.
But I don't think he would just go against just like that. But yeah, it would be interesting to know more about Amalric, the Baron of Tor.
Yeah, Amalric
and Orestes, and see what is. But we probably will later on, though we are very obviously, Conan's point of view is obviously very the one that is the main point of view. So,
yeah, the two who are still in mystery are Amalric and Orestes. But like I said, I think Tarascus...
Amalric, yeah.
Amalric, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Amalric is, I don't know how smart or dumb he is. I'm not going to judge. He's only appeared for really one scene. And from what it's been referenced, he is a politically savvy guy. Amalric is...
Yeah. No, Amalric is the guy who seems to have financed and planned the thing. So.
Yeah. He's... Yeah. Then you've got Orestes, who's mysterious and obviously really smart. Smarter than Amalric. Smarter than a lot of characters. Not as powerful as Fafamon, obviously, but...
No. Yeah.
He's really, really, really clever. And very powerful. He
figured out the heart of Ahriman, a bit at least. So,
and then you've got, but like I said, I think Tarascus might be smart enough to go after Conan after Conan tries, maybe deals with Xaltatun. But Valerius, yeah, like you said, he's not that bright. He's just thinking, I got to take out Conan before Conan takes me out.
He does make a point here that he says that he figures out that Conan had help. So he says to the Forkitai guys that strike his trail. Where that trail will lead you, I know not, but find him, and when you find him, slay him. But he also just that, I mean, that kill everyone who helped Conan, basically. So it's not just Conan.
Kill him, everyone who helped him, the French poodle, and the chef who served him dinner.
Yeah.
So
kill the guards, basically.
Yeah.
And the executioner. Oh wait, he's dead already.
What we do? Kill him again.
Yeah.
But
no, that worked. Just kill him a third time.
Yeah. Who was that? Who was that guy who? No, that was after Cromwell died. they wasn't it they exhumed his body, wasn't it? And then they yeah, and then they destroyed his, like, burned and destroyed his body. The king, I mean, and his followers.
I believe they quartered, hung, and drew his corpse, dismembering and wrecking it.
Yeah, they dug him up. That's what I mean. They dug him up afterwards, and then this is like that's really petty.
Yeah, well, he had murdered millions of people throughout the British Isles. So, he was the first military dictator in. Well, he gave he was the first military dictator really in the past, probably about 400 years or so. So,
I mean,
from the year 1650 up to today, he was the first one.
But I mean, he just the king wasn't doing his job well, so he just took the power from the king. And I mean, what's the difference? He was just like a king. Kings used to do that as well. They attacked, conquered places, and killed people. Like, basically.
Difference was Oliver was a little batty, and he generally believed God was telling him how to win battles, or that God would want him to do it this way or that way. And he also murdered millions of Irish and Scots, I think. And just, you look at his bloody record and it's like, wow, it's on a whole other scale from the English model. Now, I'm not saying that Edward I might not have wanted to do that sort of thing, just that he didn't have the means to do it, for example. But Oliver had the means and actually went through with it. And much as people there's some valid complaints that can be made about, say, Napoleon, but I'd say Robespierre and Oliver Cromwell are almost, they're in one category. Napoleon was more of an emperor, like with all the legal trappings of kingship and whatnot, whereas Oliver Cromwell and Robespierre were more like military dictators, like Stalin or Hitler to an extent, like saying I'm above the law and I can slaughter everyone I want, and like, what I mean?
That's what the kings did all the time, like Bloody Mary. She just killed every Protestant she could find, basically.
200 really brought that way. And Elizabeth slaughtered 80,000, I think, Catholics.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like they all did like horrible stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's
I just mean,
because I think they kind of look at Cromwell in that sense that he was one of the first commoner who took away the power of someone who claimed to be over everyone just because of his birth.
Yeah.
So he was like in that sense, because they even tried almost get democracy, but Cromwell like refused. He said it wouldn't work as of yet. He felt that's what I just read. I don't know, but that's like that he would need to consolidate more to even have a chance at that. And I mean, he had a point, because immediately when he died, it just all went away.
Yeah.
Like everything he had accomplished, basically.
But a few decades later, the British declared democracy and instituted through the Glorious Revolution democracy, a parliamentarian one. What my point is that kingship and emperorship, which is just elevated kingship in the medieval sense, had legal constraints to their powers and legal stuff they could and could not do within the realm. You look at the King of England, Magna Carta. You look at the kings of Scotland, they had the Declaration of Arbroath Abbey. You look at the French kings, they had certain restraints. And but eventually, the French kings removed their restraints legally. There was legal stuff that helped and constrained power. Whereas with Cromwell, he dispensed with all the legal constraints and said, I have absolute power. And same thing with Robespierre and whatnot. And they were the first. Now, the king technically ruled through the bureaucracy, the church, through the gift of God, from God, but he was bound to the law. Whereas the military dictators were ruled through military might. And to make now that said, just to compare to Conan, did any king ever rule as well as, say, Conan? No, probably not. Probably not. Because Conan is more of an Arthurianic type character.
Well, I mean, for me, I think that King David, I think, was a fantastic ruler, but that's just me.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of biblical monarchs. I was thinking like of the past 1,500 years or so. I was thinking the medieval context.
Oh, right.
And yeah, like I wasn't looking at the Bronze Age or anything of that era.
Right.
But you know what? There were great kings from that era. Like you have David. You have you have Mershli II from the Hattians, and you have a lot of others. And also, but there are some monarchs in the medieval period who did rule fantastically well, and were dedicated.
Couldn't all been bad.
Yeah, but none ruled so well as Conan. If you compare history to literature, almost none ruled so well as Conan, or Aragorn. So like that's the thing. They represent the ideal, the literary ideal of what a king should aspire to.
And obviously, there's less written about them, than some actual kings, maybe.
Yeah. But literary characters can form an ideal, like an aspirational ideal to aspire to.
Yeah.
Inspired by.
So, what's you guys' closing thoughts about these 2 chapters?
They rocked.
Can't argue with that. Really
Care
enjoyed
to elaborate?
The aspect of the lore, the history. I mean, you don't get a good story without that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, me personally, I just, like I said earlier, I thought these 2 chapters were fantastic. The first, the battle and escape from the tower, really great. Do you know me, dogs? Like, I mean, that's one of the best lines so far. Like, I think that's a really classic. Do you know me? Do you know me, dogs? Like, that's powerful. Just, you can like picture it, him coming out from the shadows. He's taken off the hood and coming out from the shadows. Like, do you know me, dogs?
Yeah.
Do you know me? That would be a great shot in a movie. Like,
yes.
How they would show that like shot.
That
you could just see the fear in the meetings when Albiona, the king, and they're like, the king? I thought the king was dead. It's like, and then they lose the grip on her because they're so scared, and like it says, they become statues. They're so, and then takes the Aquilonian to say, like, snap out of it. Like, we gotta take out this guy.
I also like the coin for Acheron chapter.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like I said, both of these chapters were fantastic for different reasons. Like the first one was for the battle and the escape, and the second one was like the lore things and really the world building of the dialogue between Adrathus and Conan is
what's remarkable
is great.
Is how much of these 2 chapters, their tropes, their ideas, and even every chapter up to this point, how much they've influenced high fantasy, the genre of high fantasy. And it's also remarkable, like when one thinks of the Children of Húrin, which I've had to take a bit more of another look at, how much Tolkien inspired Sword and Sorcery to an extent.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there was a horror and also a Sword and Sorcery writer in Tolkien, just as there was a high fantasy side to Howard. But the 2 are so much more elevated than the rest, so that they're just writing mythology, which was what they were trying to write. They were trying to write more in an old mold. And it just, here Howard is just revolutionizing so much in so many different kind of fantasy genres.
Right. I was just thinking about a question. Is there, the Heart of Ahriman, like they said that if you throw it in the ocean, it comes back. Isn't that a thing in mythology, or in like a thing that a thing of very powerful thing is like destined to be found? So it's like it finds, like it comes to whoever it's supposed to come to, even though you would try to throw it away. I think there's also fables of stuff like not really powerful things, but things like you try to throw it away, it just always comes back to you, or something like that. Like
you have the Hammer of Mjolnir. It comes back. I always wondered what would happen if he missed the catch and it bopped him on the head or something. But that could only happen in Marvel.
Then he would have the face of Mjolnir.
Yeah. There's, I believe, I had another. The Ring of the Nibelungen.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the same thing, the Ring of Nibelungen, because I just saw the opera for that. One of the operas.
Really?
That, so. Yeah, it's going in the Finnish opera. The Siegfried was going, and
never seen that.
And so on the Valkyrie and the Rheingold. Rheingold is the first one. Then the last one is the Death of the Gods, Götterdammerungen.
I gotta see
the last.
That.
Agreed.
That's the they're all like many hours long. I think is it 12 hours in all together, I think, or something. I don't remember. They're really long. But it's the Ring of the Nibelungen. It's the myth of the German people, I think.
Yeah, the myth of Sigurd and Brynhildr, the destined members who are also doomed by their love.
So isn't there the ring, like it finds itself, or like it comes,
and it's also cursed by fat.
Yeah,
and Sigurd offers it to Brynhildr as a symbol of their union and love, and she's later driven to rage because Sigurd was essentially mind controlled into marrying someone else, and this drives her a little bonkers. Then she remembers her love for him and plunges onto his funeral pyre. And I don't need to preach to you the story. It's such a great story.
There probably is a book about it. The one could read.
It's a great story.
What's it called? What did you say it was called?
I think it was just the Nibelungen.
Okay.
Or the Nibelungen.
There's also a TV miniseries of the Ring Nibelung. I have that. I've seen it. It's pretty good. It's not the greatest, but
you should always do a live stream on that.
Oh right, yeah. You mean the TV miniseries?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's very mythological. It's not, well, obviously, but I mean, it's very sword and sorcery kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, actually. But anyway, does anyone in the chat have questions? Yes, no, maybe not. But if you have, please throw some questions our way if you want to discuss these chapters or whatever Conan related or anything else related, or even non-related. But if no one has any questions, I guess that's it for these two chapters. The next are Swords of the South. I remember that because I read the comic. I remember that title. And then the Fang of the Dragon,
which will be, I think, on our channel. The brothers.
Yeah, it's interesting if the Fang of the Dragon is in. It probably means Exaltatune, probably, but
we'll have to see.
No, well, I just remember that the Conan's guard is called the Black Dragons. So I was just thinking about that. So, but anyway, also there's some sick merch. If anyone wants,
Gonna have to order some.
it's really cool. Cool
people-
looking.
Find your way to World of Conan's merch store. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some more as well. I'm gonna have a Call of Atlantis one. One of Aquilonian one. I'm gonna have Aquilonian, the Black Dragons. Actually, I'm gonna have one of those, and then one Nordheimer shirt as well. So
Maybe
just
even the Red Slayers of Volusia.
all right, yeah. It's been some time. I gotta read those stories again. It's been so long since I read the Call stories, but gotta read the Conan stories. You gotta read the Conan stories because we're reading them. So.
I gotta finally get a physical copy of Call, and maybe those completed editions.
There's also, by the way, if you didn't know, Ablaze, the guys who did or do these ones, have a new comic called The Mighty Barbarians, which has Call in it.
I did not know that.
As one of the group. Yeah, it's new. It was news to me. I'm gonna do a video on it. But the only thing I disliked what I read about it is it's like a super group of heroes, but it's formed by Morgan Le Fay, and I just do not care about that character at all. I think she's overused, and in the story she's evil, so I don't understand why she would even do anything good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just hate her character. I just dislike her character
because she's essentially the Arthuriana's Fafamon.
Yeah, she's just a basic witch, and just go away.
More than one way.
Yeah. And if everyone enjoyed this stream, don't forget to smash the like button.
Yes.
To help this stream.
Hit the like and subscribe, people. Thank you.
Subscribe to both channels, and also Zerosum, who was supposed to show up, but
I was supposed.
Let's get him over 500.
Yeah, awesome. I was supposed to mention and say that the reason was he had some work stuff, so he couldn't make the stream. Obviously, otherwise he would have been here to talk with us. But he's gonna be on the next one.
Yep. Which it'll be exciting viewpoint on these. On this.
Oh, definitely, and I think the next chapter is gonna be fantastic as well. Well, obviously,
there's a reason. I also want to at some point discuss with him the French versus English translation, like get into some of the particularities of that. And I don't know if there's a Finnish edition available, and that'd be interesting.
Yeah, there.
French, Finnish between them.
I was wondering, is there of the Hour of the Dragon? At least of some of the stories there are that I know. Queen of the Black Coast, at least is. Can't remember if Hour of the Dragon has been. It must have been though. It must have been. But that's when you translate, you really you see the translators use like idioms, like you said, and stuff like that. That only like if it's in Finnish, only Finnish people really understand. They change stuff with the meaning or take something from our history and give some kind of alludes in that way meaning to it. So the translations can change a bit. Depends completely on the translator. Completely.
It's like writing a whole story all on its own in a way.
Oh man, I used to, when I watched TV, I used to hate the Finnish translators because they would always translate the jokes to something of Finnish culture, and I would be like, oh, that's not the joke. That's not the joke what they're telling. You just translated it to something really stupid, cultural pop culture thing, a joke. It has nothing to do with the joke that was just told by some American guys in America who don't know anything about Finland. It doesn't make any sense, and it's just so dumb, the jokes that they would come up with instead of the original jokes. And I would just be like, at least I know it. yeah, at least I know English, so I understand the original good jokes. Like it's just so stupid that they. But yeah,
What's funny is that, for example, card chapters we watched more in French growing up, and I remember a time when I struggled with my English, so I wouldn't get the English jokes, but then I'd watch the French one and I go, oh, okay. Then when I rewatched it a few years later in English, I like the English voice actors, but I was like, oh, so that's the English joke. I prefer the French. When it was dubbed in English first, and it's like, well, it was dubbed in Japanese, then translated to English, and then it's like gets translated to French, and I'm like, I kind of prefer the French edition. So, but then you had some shows that were translated by the Americans into French, and it's like, or in Quebec or Paris, and it's like, the English version did it better. And, but then you got things like some of the Pocahontas songs, for example, got violent in the French editions. So it's like, the Savages song, which is worst in French because you're just going, dear Lord, the things you're saying about each other. Like the English version, it's like, oh, we're going to make this a PG song. The French edition, let's take it to R rating or something. Just how they just, the way they talk about each other is just hilarious.
French those songs are really good.
Yeah, those Disney classic stuff. Yeah, they really make them regional. They change everything from the song lyrics to the jokes. I just remember Aladdin was completely, all the jokes and all that stuff is completely changed.
Yeah, but I gotta go. So
yeah, we gotta go, definitely. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched this on the replay. Thank you so much. Come and see us on the next one over on the
Brothers Crin.
This one. No, that one. The Brothers Crin channel. And we'll be joined by Zerosum.
I can't get it right.
We're joined. Let me speak. We're joined by Zerosum on Brothers Crin channel as well, and I hope you enjoyed the video and just read up on the Hour of Dragon. It's a fantastic, cool. Exemplary, one of the greatest, fantastic Conan stories. So I mean, you guys, you're missing out if you haven't read it. So read up.
And one of the best novels of the 20th century so far.
So read up and catch up, because we're not that far in anyway. You can easily catch up, and you come and hit us with all those questions and theories and notes and all that stuff, and let's discuss and check out what new things we can think of. But anyways, that's all for tonight, and we'll see you on the next one. Hail Conan and hail the Brotherhood. All right, I always forget. I'll say Brotherhood. I mean, hail the Barbarian Horde. I don't know why I've always messed that up. Anyway, goodbye.
Hail the
Bye.